Hello everyone, this is Jasmine, aka Gladiatorinsweats, and today I'm here to talk about something very important or significant to galactic culture, which is the Day of Time. And this day always ends or lands on July 25th, so happy Day Out of Time for everyone. And let's just talk about what this day represents and get more in depth with it. I talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I guess I would just want to give a more detailed summary to kind of warm everyone up to it a little bit more and just to kind of understand its significance, but also just the energy of this day, or just the energy of this concept of time being art as opposed to time being money. And so let's just jump into it. So the Day of Time, it always lands on July 25th because the Galactic New Year always begins on July 26th. This is particularly because this is when the star Sirius rises with the sun, and it links up. So essentially, the sun synchronizes, which is like the sun is our star from which we get these light codes, if you will. So I guess if you just want to break it down and look at it from a galactic viewpoint, Hunab Ku, that's the name for essentially the all in like Mayan cosmology, Mayan astrology. And so you can see it as the all, and it comes down through points, and it comes through different kind of like lenses, if you will. If you even want to think of it that way, where as different lenses like focus and line up, you get different kinds of energies. And so essentially that's the whole process of the universe, is that and that's how our body works, right? Everything is relative. So if you want to relate it to the body, which might make a little bit more sense, with the brain being the all, the brain being the command center that sends the messages and commands to the body to tell it what to do, to let it know what's going on, to let it know what it's perceiving, all of that, right? And so you can see it that way. And so normally, or not even normally, but naturally, the natural order or the timing frequency is not 20 with the 2060 artificial time frequency. So what do I mean by that? Like, what do I mean by an artificial time frequency? So just to try and keep it long story short and to keep it from being overly complicated, the 60-minute clock and the 12-month calendar, this isn't necessarily like unknown, but these are both man-made constructs that were created by, like a dictator. I believe it was Julius Caesar. And this implementation of this 12-month calendar, which is uneven and irregular, inherently, and then the 60-minute clock, both of which are not of the natural order of time or the natural order of of time. But let's kind of, first, I guess, let's clear up what I mean by that before I go into the next part. So, if we just even want to stick with the 12-month calendar, which I feel is the easiest thing for people to understand, the fact that our months are very irregular, and it just makes no sense. I've kind of had this thought ever since I was little, like, why it just never made any sense. And it just never made any sense also because it made it very confusing to remember which days had how many days, or which months had how many days. And not just that, but also we're very disconnected from like the history of our calendar. We don't really understand like where our calendar comes from and the history behind it. I mean, I know only because I've gone out and it's been brought to my awareness that, this is something that not not only hasn't been around forever or has been something that man created, but also just that it actually, since time is such a fundamental part of our life and our experience, the idea that in a regular time frequency, yeah, that would actually really, skew people and really, toss them off of their routine, or just toss them off of their natural path and natural order. And so, the 13 moon calendar is a rectification of that. I don't know if I've mentioned this yesterday, but of the 13 months, and there being 28 days in each. So then there's 364 days. This one leftover day is memorialized, and it's actually an international holiday that is used to celebrate time as art, to really celebrate the way that we would, ideal society, or not even just ideal society, but it's really about celebrating galactic culture, celebrating oneness with the universe, celebrating that as above, so below, and as, so below as above. And, just celebrating that time begins in the mind, that time is really the consciousness. It's really the way that we perceive it. And I guess if I just talk a little bit more about what I mean by that. So the basic foundation of galactic time is this understanding that time is the fourth dimension, that it's the non-physical realm that unifies and governs the 3D. It's the non-physical world and realm in which you actually, create, that actually kind of determines and, as I said, governs the 3D world. Our consciousness, our awareness, and our inner experiences. That is what helps shape our reality, where we can all experience the same thing, or we can all be in the same situation, and we can have all different experiences. And that's because of this non-physical realm of mind. And not just that, but this is pretty much the basis of visualization. The idea that you can visualize it and you can, imprint it in your mind so that you're able to experience it. And this is something that's pretty basic if you read the Kabbalion. That's a very great book that would be, or just any books on the Hermetic principles, but learning that the mind is what creates, and that the all is mental. And that's really the basis of galactic time. And so we use this galactic calendar to help realign us with the natural order, and essentially also helps us realign us with our higher self, which, doesn't operate on the 3D. And so, as I said, our relationship to time is fundamental to how we live our lives. And so working with galactic time does help, or I believe, helps raise our frequency into resonance with, the harmony of the living universe, helping to bring us up to speed, if you will, and help move us from the, 1260 artificial time to the 1320. So pretty much the summary, that day out of time is just kind of as it states, a day of timelessness, a day of removing and detaching in any way that you can. It doesn't mean that you just completely don't do anything today, or you don't fulfill your obligations or responsibilities or what have you, but it's really about aligning yourself with the consciousness of timelessness, the consciousness of planetary peace, of universal forgiveness, of freedom from the mindset of you know, work, work, sleep, eat, and consume, and freeing yourself from just being stuck in that experience and not being able to experience anything more or higher than that. So today's, or not just today's focus, but this year's focus, today's galactic signature is the yellow crystal star. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. The code for today is: I dedicate in order to beautify, universalizing art. I seal the store of elegance with the crystal tone of cooperation. I'm guided by the power of universal fire. And so, the first thing I just want to say is that honestly, this energy is just the perfect. It's so resonant with the message of the day out of time, of celebrating life and time as art. And I really feel like this helps us to even further understand, like, what do we even mean by art? What do we mean by beauty? Like, what do we really truly mean when we say something is beautiful, right? So the yellow crystal star, it gives me this energy of recognizing that every being has its place in the divine order of everything. It's seeing the orchestration in everything. Art honestly is really about the harmony of different energies and that are combined, and then they synthesize to create something. We can see this very simply when we take two colors. If we take red and blue, we take two different, obviously very different combinations, and we mix them together and we synthesize them, and we get a beautiful purple. We get something new, and that's, we would call that art. And art is really it's the process of that creation. It's the process, and it can appear as, very consciously overt actions, but it can also be what we may call happy mistakes and coincidences, things that we call, oh well, that was lucky, or that was auspicious. It's in those moments where we can kind of recognize the divine order of everything. It's pretty much the essence of synchronicity. And that's really what I feel here with the yellow crystal star. And not just that, but this galactic year that we're finishing up, it's been the year of the yellow crystal seed, I believe. And so I even feel that that's very symbolic, that we started this year with the energy of the yellow crystal seed, of manifestation, the flowering process, if you just want to get into the dirt and the creation process, getting our hands a little bit dirty, getting a little bit uncomfortable, and putting ourselves out in ways that we maybe haven't before, or taking actions that we weren't comfortable or courageous enough to do before. And then we have the culmination of all of this with the yellow crystal star, where it's the crystallization of that seed. It's the crystallization, the manifestation of this whole year's work and experience of everything that we've experienced. And I feel it's not even just about this whole year, but I feel like it's even about the different the different layers, for the collective, looking back on history in the past as a whole, being able to look at how we've been able to come to this point now, look in our own lives, in our own personal lives, in our own, this lifetime, how we've been able to go through, ups and downs to come to this point. And being able to kind of appreciate all of it, not just the good things, but the supposed bad things too, and being able to see the beauty in that too, to see how, the different combinations of different stresses even brought us to certain moments as well. it reminds me, even when we think about the creative process of birth and the labor process, where it's crazy painful and it's crazy intense. Or I don't want to say it's crazy painful, it's not like that for everyone, but it's intense at the very least. And it definitely tests your limits and tests your faith in yourself and in the divine order of everything, where you feel, if can I really do this? Can I do this? And do I have the power? Do I have the ability? And am I supported in doing this, all of this? And I feel with the energy today, we can kind of sit in this energy of knowing that, yes, that it all was not only just worth it, but that it all was purposeful, that it all had a purpose, it all had a reason. Even the way that every little ant has its purpose on the earth, the same way every little stress and pleasure is, a part of our journey. And I feel like that's really a heavenly message to feel into today, especially for a day with it being the day out of time, but then ironically being the day that Mercury also goes retrograde. It goes retrograde around 10 p.m. PST, so it's a perfect opportunity for reflection on our relationship with time and our relationship with even like our victimhood and our belief that we are not divine creators, or that the world happens to us, and it's not that there's some part of us, some part of our soul, of our spirit that needs us, or it believes that this is for the highest good. So yeah, it's also a galactic activation portal date. I guess that's just a long way of saying with I believe it's pronounced the Tolkien. It's pretty much the matrix, the map, if you will, that the galactic calendar follows. And there is even a pattern with which DNA activations or galactic activations take place. And so again, today just feels very auspicious. This whole week has felt very just faded, just felt very, very orchestrated. Like everything is having its place. Like everything is just being placed just right for these moments, for these activations. Like I've been saying, and I'm sure plenty of other people have been saying, I mean, the way that we have Mercury going retrograde, and then, or for me, the day out of time, we have the start of the new galactic year on the 26th, and then we also have this eclipse that takes place on the 27th. And I mean, I'll talk more about the eclipse as well, but I mean, that day is just going to be interesting, to say the very least. That's an understatement. That's, I don't know, a ridiculous understatement. But I guess it's just perfect. I really feel it's just perfect for this to be this message of making ourselves open to this reality of synchronization, of complex divine order. So Uranus, which leads these 7-year cycles for the collective, this year is the opening of, this 7-year cycle in general that began in 2013 was the cycle of opening the 7 light gates, or you can even look at it as the 7 chakras of the collective. So this year is the opening of the 6th light gate, and that would be the third eye, the brow chakra. And so again, even when you think about the third eye linked to our intuition and our sense of purpose, our direction in life, linked to our sense of understanding within our own personal lives, but even its connection to the crown, which brings us to the connection to the divine within us and all around us. And so I feel that not just today, but even this next year ahead of us is really about us reconnecting to the divine in the most glorious way. It's really about us transcending the old way of being, like in such a deep, deep way for the collective. In such a deep way. It's an amazing time to honestly be alive. And not just that, but even us being alive, in this moment at this time was purposeful, and I feel like there's so much gratitude to take in that, even in that, and being able to be here to experience this. This is brand new. This is something that humanity has never experienced before. So yeah, I guess it's just awesome to be, here for the ride. Let's see. I also wanted to say, before I get into the spread and before I get into the tarot messages and all that, I want to round this off with today also being coincided with the Global Water Appreciation Day, which I believe, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Dr. Emoto, Dr. Masaru Emoto, he was a strong supporter of the 13-moon calendar, but he was the one who created the Global Water Appreciation Day. He was actually someone who, I believe if you look him up, he's someone who demonstrated that water responds to vibration, and that water is a living intelligence, essentially. Pretty much spreading, this message of universal water, of water being this carrier for messages, carrier of energy, talking about the magic of water. He was just essentially a messenger of water. I guess I feel a very close connection to not just his work by him. He's also a white crystal dog such as myself, and so I definitely resonate with his message of seeing water as this conducive energy. I mean, Western science kind of already sees it as a conductive energy or a conductor for energy, but it doesn't see it to the extent to which Emoto was able to kind of help the world see it. I will make sure to link some videos to his messages and to his work, because I feel like it's very important, not just for the Day of Time, but just for this year going forward as we move into the red cosmic moon, which even this next upcoming year is about us reconnecting and getting in touch again with the divine feminine energy and getting back in touch with the purity of water. And I'm just really excited. And I feel like my words aren't coherent enough to really be able to express just how much we really should appreciate water. Not just as, a valuable resource on this planet, but just for its not just its abilities, but just our relationship to it. Just even in knowing that our body is mostly composed of water. And so our relationship to water, I feel like we've really lost touch and really lost the sacredness of water. And really just the sacredness of the world around us. I just really, not just myself, it's just a common thing that we can see where we've really lost touch with nature. And not just nature, with ourselves. We've just gotten so focused on the outside, focused on the external and the appearance of things and the illusion of things. And just so focused on the 3D, when the 3D is just, it's just a layer. It's just one side to the experience. And so I really do want to promote today to be a day for us to really embody this energy of moving intuitively with ourselves, with our world, being in touch with our environment as well as with our bodies, really using our our emotions, not just using them but honoring. I feel like there's a new like reemergence of honoring our feelings, honoring water, for all that it does represent, representing our emotions, the fluidity, the ability to change states, the ability to change and hold states, its resiliency, just the strength that water holds in its fluidity. You know, the way that, and I feel like that's kind of also definitive, or not just definitive, but kind of shows our relationship with water, because we, not just with water, but with what water represents, with its fluidity. And I feel like we're very stuck in the rigidity of things, and stuck in not necessarily needing structure, but that the structure that we have is just not, it's not, first of all, natural, but it's also just not healthy. It's not conducive to our souls and our spirit. And I feel we all know this. We all feel this when people go to jobs that they don't like, when they hang around people that they don't even enjoy being around, when kids go to school to learn things that they don't personally feel resonancy with. All of this. And we're all doing it because we feel like we've been told to. And not just that, but again, there's always this having to keep up an illusion of peace, of cooperation. But this isn't peace and cooperation, it's coercion. You know, it's not something that people want to do, it's something people feel they have to do. And I mean, I really just feel, not just today, but just going into this new year, but even just the essence of timelessness, of the flow of things, of the constant give and take, that there is no moment where anything kind of stops. Everything's constantly moving. I feel like there's probably a name for it, like an actual, like, formal name for this theory or law or whatever, but that everything is vibrating, everything is constantly moving. It's the speed at which things move that changes. So yeah, I know that that may have been a little bit all over the place. I hope that resonated, and I really do hope that kind of made sense as to why this day is celebrated, what it's all about, the things that you can kind of think about or meditate on today, or just kind of keep in the back of your mind as you go through this day, or even just even if you take in the moment to appreciate water and to see it for the vessel for energy that it is, and being able to use it for good, being able to people do this already with their own water, where they might like put crystals in their water or just place intentions in their water, things like that. I feel like that kind of working with water would be really cool today. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into the spread and talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde that is toward the end of the night. Alright, so for the spread, I did a restore, rethink, reinvent spread here. And so let's just jump into it. We have the moon in reverse, page of wands, and 5 of coins, and 4 of swords. And clarifying this, we have sacrifice, financial and material changes, and awareness. So just starting with the restore here, I feel this as a a restoration of our psychic abilities and capabilities through a release of our fears and our doubts. Not just our fears and our doubts, but the way that I see this sacrifice card is like a baptism and a purification of the spirit and the soul. This is the Hanged Man card technically, so it does remind me heavily of Neptune. Reminds me heavily of dissolving of the illusions, and not just that, but in the context of restoration, I feel this is really about a restoration of our emotions, our psychic abilities and capabilities, and just as well as our emotions and our feelings in general. Just a whole purification, a restoring of our purest feeling, our purest soul, I feel here. With the rethink, we have this Page of Wands with the Five of Pentacles, I believe this is. And so with this Page of Wands here, with this rethink, and it makes me think of coming into new knowledge, being aware of new abilities, being aware of new sources of power, rethinking the way in which you use that power, through noticing the changes that are made through the way that you use and manipulate your power. Also see here with this Page of Wands, I feel like it's pretty resonant with the visual in the oracle for this spread as well, this golden orange dragon. And I feel like this is about with this moon card in reverse again, as this being like a resurrection of old knowledge, and not necessarily old, but it's like old, but it's new to us in a weird way, the way that this Page of Wands is here. And it's the page where it's, it's in infancy. There's a newness to this journey, or to this power here. And I feel like it brings about this financial and maybe material changes in our life. But this could also just be about rethinking our abilities by, like as I was saying, noticing the changes in our life, or by noticing the physical. This makes me think very much of just like the physical, and the fire is what you can see. It's these are both of the very physical, what you can sense with your senses. And so I feel this is about like the physical, the outward changing, and the outward being like a changing of the way that we are experiencing and the way that we are seeing things. But this Five of Coins and the Four of Swords, they're both in reverse here. And I feel this is about in the reinvent position, in that context, about changing your reality, changing the way that, changing your experience. The Five of Coins in reverse can either be about moving out of poverty, or it can really be more of a focus like internal impoverishness, or just feeling spiritually starved. This Four of Swords is about feeling kind of stuck, feeling mentally stuck on like one thing, or just could be stuck on like one issue. But the way I'm seeing this is about like one train thought, is the way that I am picking up on this, is like and the way that this awareness is underneath it though, with this reinvent. And the underneath is kind of like the how, where above is like what. So what is being reinvented is our mental capacity to experience, our mental capacity to be aware of more resources, and being aware of what else is out there. And not just that, but I feel with this awareness card, I mean, it is the Magician card, essentially the card of Mercury. So for it to pop up here in this Mercury retrograde spread is very indicative, I feel, of this Mercury retrograde, as all Mercury retrogrades kind of are, but this one in particular, with the way that we have these like faded events and these faded energies coming through, of us really being able to redefine our experience, being able to reshape our reality through our self-awareness, but also through making ourselves aware of, as I keep mentioning, of our abilities, of, I just feel here like resources, like there's just this new spring of resources. At the bottom of the deck, or bottom of both decks, we have the King of Coins and the Crown Chakra. And so I feel here with this King of Coins, it's about this control of wealth, or this maturation of wealth, but I feel this as spiritual wealth, as like knowledge with this Crown Chakra card here. This connection to source, this divine connection to source, where there's like this direct connection, I feel. The way that this pentacle is above the tree here in this King of Coins, it makes me think of like the Crown Chakra here. And even just this tree makes me think of like the tree of life, or just makes me think of the correlation between the Crown Chakra and this connection to the all and to source, and it coming and being poured through us, as us being the vessels that hold this energy, that hold this resource. And so actually, if I just look here at the bottom 3 cards of each bottom of the deck, we have the King of Coins, King of Cups, and Ace of Cups. So this is control, physical and emotional control of our reality. And not just control, but there's this new spring of like creativity, of love, of divine source. There's this this water. And as I've mentioned earlier about today being this Global Water Appreciation Day, and just about this year moving forward, it being the red cosmic moon, this being about us like honoring and reconnecting to this emotional creative source. And I feel like that's very indicative here with all of these king cards. But again, with this Crown Chakra card, even underneath the Crown Chakra card, we have 9 of Pentacles, and then we have Patience, which is the Temperance card technically. So this is definitely like a integration of some very valuable knowledge. I feel some very valuable information, or just this could be relative to money. This could be about again, as you feel like spiritually fulfilled, and you feel mentally rich, then you can also see this as the physical manifestation of richness and abundance as well. But with this Patience card underneath, I see this as not just being patient, but there's stillness here. There's this openness to like receptivity that I feel in this card in particular, the way that it's drawn. And it has this lady, I believe, holding this sprouting flower in her hand, in the palm of her hand. And I do feel this as there's this integration of like the darker or the more feminine energy. That's what I feel here in this card. But overall, restore, rethink, reinvent. Restoring our connection to creativity, to creation, to the fourth dimension. Fourth dimension. This could even, the way that the moon card even looks like a portal, this could be about us restoring our connection again to a divine source. I'm even looking at the way that this rainbow is coming off of I believe the crown of this woman in the card also. So there's a lot of this crown chakra symbolism heavy in this spread, a lot of water, and a lot of this like purification in this reading. Also, just the fact that we do have this moon card here even makes me think about the full moon and this eclipse that we're also will be taking place. So I don't know, I just feel like this is very much resonant about us coming into more and more knowledge of ourselves and a new awareness of our realities, being able to shape our realities and coming into power to shape these realities through our awareness, through our self-awareness, through recognizing the mirror reality that this really is. Going to this golden orange dragon oracle card, expand your light for ascension. Be a peaceful warrior, help those in need, and remember your magnificence. This feels for me, makes me think of Leo energy, makes me think of, we did just head right into Leo season, so it could be a little bit of that, but also the fact that Mercury is spending quite a bit of time in Leo. It would have probably progressed into Virgo within the next week or so, but since it's retrograde, or it will be retrograde, at least maybe by the time that some of you are watching this, but it's spending at least twice more, I would say maybe 3 times more time than it normally would in Leo. So I see this also as the sun has been entering Leo, and now it's going to progress through, and the Mercury is now in retrograde, or essentially you can kind of see it as quote unquote going in reverse, if you will. There's this connection that it will make eventually as the sun catches up, or it'll get closer at the very least. Don't have my charts in front of me to be able to look at and give you that very specifically, but regardless, there's this closer connection to the sun, or would be like our divine masculine energy, our awareness, connecting back with the messenger between the worlds, Mercury, bringing back some messages that we may have realized or felt about ourselves as of recently, and kind of bringing that back to the sun, bringing that back to our awareness, and kind of bringing it back to our identity to be integrated. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for the reading. And just to conclude this whole day out of time video, so just to talk about a few of the planetary shifts that we do, or not really shifts, but the moon. So the moon, I believe, will conjunct Saturn essentially like right as today, well, as Wednesday, the day out of time, ends, and as Thursday begins. And so it's also pretty close around the time that Mercury goes retrograde. And so I find it also just a little interesting that the moon will be conjunct with the Lord of Time at this moment, as the moon essentially moves on and progresses. And yeah, I think that really is it. So Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a bit long and it could be a little bit complicated. I am working on putting out a few videos about the 13 moon calendar and kind of summarizing and explaining that a little bit and kind of breaking that down, try and make it simple. I know that there's some material on YouTube at the very least about it. I'll link some of the sites as I have before, so that you can go and look into it more if you'd like to as well. But there's just naturally not as much information about this as there is about like Western astrology and the like. So I definitely want to talk more about it and kind of bring it more to people's awareness, and to hopefully, I guess, connect with others that may want to kind of integrate it more into their life, or even if just integrating the calendar as far as keeping along with it and seeing how it resonates in your own life. So just want to close this off again with a happy day out of time. The day with us celebrating time as art, celebrating the day, a day of timelessness, and really allowing our minds to be open to the future and to what our idea of the future would be like if we did not have an attachment to money as, survival. If we had, if not even if we had, but if we were able to move out of survival and reconnect with source and with knowing that there's enough to go around for everyone. And what would we do? What would we do if we were able to free our conscious minds of focusing on that? What would we be able to do? And I kind of want to encourage people to spend some time, whatever that something may be, doing it, whether it's, for, an hour, or if it's as little as like a minute or like 30 seconds, and taking that time to be present, taking that time to connect with yourself and with your environment, or just taking the time to be self-aware and being aware of how you feel in that moment. So yeah, I send you guys all my love, and I'm wishing you many, many blessings today. So until next time, or technically until tomorrow and the beginning of the Galactic New Year, I will talk to you guys then.